maybe one of the most significant things in the Hollywood industry right now that's taking place and what will really shape the future of some major franchise isn't happening on a set. It's happening in a courtroom, because today's the day. The trial of Jonathan Majors has officially begun. And there's a number, we're going to talk about what's at stake here, but also some of the interesting things that are happening. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who wrote the following. After repeated delays and clashes between lawyers over conduct of the case, Jonathan Majors goes on trial this morning in New York City on misdemeanor charges of assault and harassment. If found guilty, and remember that's a giant if found guilty, the Creed 3 and Loki star faces up to a year in prison and untold consequences for what remains of his career. Majors likely will be in the Manhattan courtroom as jury selection begins today. A New York judge, now this is where it gets interesting. A New York judge is expected to hear a motion from a handful of news organizations to unseal documents in the case that sources tell Deadline contain information on potential past incidents involving the actor. All right. So as we dive into this, I want to start off with what we should all start off with in understanding this. A presumption of innocence, right? You are innocent until proven guilty. He has been charged. He is now facing trial. He might end up being found guilty, but we all should assume his innocence until such time as that happens. Okay? That being said, there's a couple of really big things at stake, and it's not just for Jonathan Majors, right? Obviously, it starts with Jonathan Majors. His career's already taken a couple of hits. His management company dropped him. I think it was CAA actually said they dropped him even before this incident because they said of the quote unquote brutal way in which Jonathan Majors treated CAA's staff. But also his publicist dropped him and all this kind of stuff. There was his magazine Dreams, which is the bodybuilding movie. Right. Disney has pulled that from the release schedule for now. If a not guilty verdict comes in, you can bet that it's going to go back on the schedule real quick. So all this kind of stuff. But what's going to happen with Kang? Because ever since Jonathan Majors got in this trouble, what's happening, not just with the future of this one character, the problem for Marvel has been this one character was kind of at the center of their plans for their entire cinematic universe for the next number of years. And what do? Marvel has adopted a wait and see mentality, which is probably the best approach for them to take right now. So they went ahead with Loki season 2 and all that kind of stuff, but also preparing for the worst in case they have to. But the entire direction of this cinematic universe hinges on that. Now, there's already been a lot of speculation that maybe Marvel was planning to pivot away from Kang anyway, just kind of because the storyline hasn't really taken root or won over a lot of people, but also because of a precaution what's going on with Jonathan Majors. And if in the event that he's found guilty of this, obviously they have to pivot and go in a new direction or recast or one or the other. So there's a lot riding on this for Jonathan Majors' career, and also for what direction is the largest franchise in the movie business, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, going to do as a result. This brings us to this really interesting thing in this introduction in the Deadline point, though. I want to read it again. Today, a New York judge is expected to hear a motion from a handful of news organizations to unseal documents in the case that sources tell Deadline contain information on potential past incidents involving the actor. Now, we had been teased with this I think about a month or two ago, when we found out that Jonathan Majors' representation petitioned the court to seal certain information because they thought they didn't want the public to know this information because they thought it would look badly on their client and all that kind of stuff. So this is going to be very fascinating to see. If the news organization's motion to unseal those documents happen, what does that do? Now, could it be something that is a testament to his guilt? Well, then that's horrible. Is it something that's just very embarrassing for Jonathan Majors that isn't necessarily relevant to the case? If that's the case, then I hope the documents stay sealed. Jonathan Majors likes to touch himself while eating McNuggets, and we have video. Well, who cares? Who cares? That has nothing to do with the case. That stuff should be kept sealed. It's nobody's business about that. If it's stuff, as Deadline was suggesting, that maybe it's stuff that points to a pattern that he's done this before, maybe that becomes relevant. Maybe that should be unsealed. I don't know, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see, number one, if those documents and that information gets unsealed and becomes available to the public. Then number two, what does that do to the public's perception of the situation? And then number three, does it have any bearing on the case whatsoever? So that's going to be interesting here too. Guys, we want to take a moment to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Give yourself the gift of insane savings this holiday season with Mint Mobile's best wireless deal of the year. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. That's 6 months of premium wireless service for the price of 3. And Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Seriously, I can't think of a better gift than turning an overpriced wireless bill into just $15 a month with Mint Mobile. I've told you guys many times, since switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my mobile service plan with Mint than I was on the previous big carrier who was my provider. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. So again, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Rob, I can't remember how long ago we first got wind that Jonathan Majors was going to be arrested, was going to be charged, all this kind of stuff. And now the trial date has finally begun. Disney has, again, taken the wait and see approach. But again, there's a lot on the line for Jonathan Majors and for Disney. What do you see being at stake here for everybody involved? And what do you think is going to happen with this information and these documents that they've got sealed right now that they're trying to unseal, if anything at all? How do you see this?
Well, one thing, I mean, Jonathan Majors himself, his star is definitely on the rise. He's an incredible performer. He is an electrifying presence to watch on screen. So his whole career could be torpedoed here. And then I don't know, unfortunately, what will happen. I mean, I don't know anything about Jonathan Majors' personal life. So you just never know about people. So it's hard to say one way or another what these revelations might possibly be. But if he has a history of bad behavior that has been covered up or not, there's been no light shined on it, and this event is going to bring that to light, it's probably better that they do this now than stay when he's in an Avengers movie. I think it's unfortunate all the way around because no one's going to win in this situation. Even if he's exonerated in some way, he's already had his good name dragged through the mud. And in terms of Disney, the one thing they can always recast. I mean, Terrence Howard, because of off-screen difficulties, was replaced as Rhodey in Iron Man, and we got Don Cheadle. And I love Don Cheadle, and I think he's been terrific in the films. He still has one of my favorite lines, which we're all about that superhero life. Which
hey, new girl.
It's such a great line. He was so good. And the thing is, they didn't even give him a close-up when he said it. I wish they did. But I think, if Jonathan Majors doesn't end up playing Kang, hopefully they can find someone else that can be just as effective. They seem to be moving forward with the Kang dynasty. And Kang, while I don't think Kang has been done well yet in the MCU, I love that storyline, the Kang storyline. And if they have to recast, they can, because there's different variants in the multiverse. So I wish everybody the best.
Here's the part that I think is potentially really unfortunate. Let's say that Jonathan Majors gets a verdict of not guilty.
Right.
What will become very sad to see is if he's not able to recover just from the charges themselves, because he's already lost his management, his publicists.
Yeah.
He lost a couple of projects, all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, the ideal outcome would be if he's found not guilty. The ideal outcome is he's able to get right back to it, right? Because like you said, before these charges happened, he was one of the most on the rise stars in the business.
I mean, he's a movie star.
What's that?
He's a movie star.
Oh, he's an absolute legit movie star. He was so good in Lovecraft Country, which put him on, I think, everybody's radar. He played He Who Remains really, really well. He was fantastic in Creed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just got this growing thing. So ideally, he gets found not guilty and he's able to get right back to it. However, one of the things I'm a little afraid of is that if he's found not guilty, that the stench of the charges may stunt his career anyway, right? I mean, his situation and Johnny Depp's are a little bit different in the sense that prior to all the Amber Heard drama, Johnny Depp had been developing a reputation that he was difficult to work with, and a lot of studios were kind of getting tired of working with him. But I mean, he came out of the trial with Amber Heard, and a lot of people thought, well, great, his career's gonna get right back on track, but it hasn't really done that. And I worry that might happen with the Jonathan Majors. What do you think? Now, Jonathan Majors, obviously his career trajectory was in a different place than Johnny Depp's was. He's got a great reputation. The studios loved working with him, all that kind of stuff. If a not guilty verdict comes in here on Jonathan Majors, do you see his career being able to get right back on track, suffering a few road bumps because of it, but he'll be fine? Or do you think it's derailed permanently? I don't know. What do you think happens to him if a not guilty verdict comes in?
I think he'll be able to get back his career. I think he'll be able to get back on track because he didn't do anything wrong. You know, and everyone understands that relationships go pear-shaped occasionally and people get nutty. It really depends what's going to come out in trial. I mean, even if there are revelations that are very unsavory and he still gets a not guilty verdict, that could affect his career. You know, they clearly want to keep certain things from the public and from potential employers, probably for a reason. So it really depends what it is they're trying to hide and if they're going to be able to keep that stuff under lock and key. So it depends. I mean, it really depends how it all goes.
You know, to your point about how, hey, he could be found not guilty, but if certain things come to light.
Yeah.
So a situation I think of is like that of Armie Hammer, right? Like Armie Hammer got not found of certain crimes, but things came out about things that he did do that may not have, equalized criminal offense and he goes to jail, but things that came out and it kind of still, derailed his career. So, I mean, that could be the case too. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this goes. And again, the main reason I get really interested in this one is not because an individual's chart, but it's like this has a direct impact on one of the biggest movie franchises in all of history.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see how this all unfolds. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.